Hi guys, welcome to Everything is Spiritual. Okay, so I said that I was gonna tell stories on my YouTube page just to give you guys an insight of my background and what I've gone through and what I've experienced on my journey, on my spiritual journey. And so I was gonna write out some stuff and put in a hat or a little bowl or something and take it out, and whatever came up I was going to tell the story. But Holy Spirit has told me to basically just start from the beginning. So this is my first ever story to do with the supernatural, my first ever experience, which was a clairvoyant experience. But obviously I was really young at the time, so I didn't know much about it until I got older. And then I knew about clairvoyant and all the, like clairaudient and all that stuff. I learned that later on in life. But obviously at that time, I had no idea. And this is a story that I kept with me until the age of 21. I actually, spoke to my mum about it at 21. And I actually said to her, do you remember this? And she remembered it. And so, it was the first time I actually came out with it. And it all started when I went to one of my cousin's christenings years back. And I was like 3 or 4, my mum said, so about 3.5, I'd say. And we went to the church, and I'm gonna start from the beginning, the whole beginning. Let me tell you the whole. So my mum took me to an infant school. I went to a Catholic infant school, not a Catholic nursery, but a Catholic primary school and a Catholic secondary school. Okay, so we used to go to church a lot, and my mum would, touch the statues in the churches. And as a kid, I just see, Jesus, in his mum's arms, and, he's got blood all over him. And you can see he was in agony and pain, he was dead and, dying, or, and as a kid, I was always sad when I used to see these statues. And so my mum used to, touch them and stuff, which you're not supposed to, but she did. And I used to touch them as well, and I used to cry, and I used to be ask my mom questions. What happened to him? Why has he got all blood on him? I was horrified, thinking how did that happen? And obviously, seeing the cross in the church and the way he was hanged on it, it really touched my heart on a really, really deep level as a child. And I remember seeing the red light on in church, and I remember asking my mum, what's that red light for? And her saying to me that, it means that Jesus is home. So I'd be like, okay, Jesus is home, but where is he? And then my mum said, well, he's home, but you can't see him, but he's alive. So I didn't get it as a kid. So I always thought that, we went to church and had the red light on, Jesus was home, and he was upstairs sleeping, upstairs in the church, and I couldn't see him. And that's just what I thought. I just really did believe that Jesus was upstairs in churches. And, as long as the red light was on, he was home, and his home was the church. So this particular time when I, went to the church with my mum, it was a Holy Communion, one of my cousins, Holy Communion, and I was sitting next to my mum, and I remember, the Holy Spirit asking me, saying if I went up those stairs, so it was, chairs, a bench, sitting next to my mum, and we had the service in front of us, so there's more benches, and then on the side, it was a staircase that went all the way up. And the Holy Spirit said to me, if I went up those stairs, I'd see Jesus. So I took a minute. Obviously, I'm always on the hunt for Jesus as a child. You have to understand this, okay? He was just someone I was always in look for. I was always looking for him, seriously. No matter what church we went to, as long as the red light was on, I wanted to see Jesus. And it said if I went upstairs, I'd see Jesus. So I sat there and I thought to myself, okay, so I said it back, if I go up those stairs, I'm going to see Jesus. And then it stopped. The Holy Spirit didn't say anything for a second. Well, it felt like quite a while, but it was for a minute. And he said, yes, if you go up those stairs, you will see Jesus. So I got excited as a kid thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to see Jesus. So, the only thing I needed to do now was to get away from my mum. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to get away. Anyway, I managed to get away from her. Don't know how it happened, but I managed to slip away from my mum. And I managed to go up the stairs and I walked up. But I knew, and I was cautious, I didn't have a lot of time. But, the fact that I was going to see Jesus, that was just enough. It was worth it. And so I went up the stairs, and as I got to the top, it was a left turn. And into this room I went, and there was another door in front of me. And then there was a double bed in the room. And next to it, like on the far end of the wall, there was a desk with a chair. And with this bed, it had like curtains on the side, on each side of it, but they were drawn back, okay? So they wasn't closed, they were drawn back. So I got into the room, and the first thing I noticed is that Jesus wasn't there. So I was heartbroken straight away. I was just like, oh my gosh, I was deflated, Jesus is not here. And so the Holy Spirit said to me, after I had the heartbreak and was saddened, the Holy Spirit said to me, look under the bed. So I was like, look under the bed? Like, Jesus is not going to be underneath the bed. Because, you're thinking to yourself, like, how's he going to fit underneath the bed? I looked at the bed and I was thinking, he's not going to be underneath the bed. He can't fit. But then, being a kid, I just had that kind of hide and seek, that hide and seek kind of mindset. So it was like, okay, I'm going to look underneath the bed. So maybe we're playing hide and seek sort of thing. So, I got on my knees. I walked to the corner of the bed. I got on my knees and I crawled and I looked underneath the bed to see, if Jesus was underneath there. And so I didn't see him. And then when I didn't see him, my heart just broke. And I was just really like so sad, that I didn't see Jesus underneath the bed. And I stayed on my knees, and I don't know why, but I turned around and I crawled to the end of the bed. And as I was crawling and I looked on the side, I noticed there was a robe, a person standing in a robe, and he had sandals on. And I just stopped, and I knew in that silence, I knew it was Jesus. I just knew it. There was no priest that was dressed like that, not with the sandals and the robe. I knew that. I knew that I wasn't supposed to be in that room, and I know that I would have been in trouble for being in that room. There was no speaking. Oh, the person would have spoke and they didn't speak. And there was this fear that came over me, and it was so strong that literally I just couldn't even look up. It was so strong, this energy of fear, that I felt like, in adulthood, when I'm looking back, had I looked up, my face would have got blown off. That's how strong that energy was. And it was silent, nothing was said. And as I said, I didn't hear no one come in the room. I was looking underneath the bed and I turned around and I never heard anyone walk through. This person just, just magically appeared there. And, I saw the feet, I saw the robe, and as I said, the silence and the fear was so strong, I didn't look up. All I did was quickly crawled. So I just crawled until I got further enough near the door, and I quickly got on my feet. I didn't even look back. I didn't look back. I just ran out of that room and downstairs. And, as I got to the stairs, obviously I didn't want to go too fast. I saw my mum down the bottom as well, which I was happy about. But I, took my time to go down, but, discreetly. And I held onto my mum's hand down the bottom. And she was like, Tasha, where was you? And I just was like, nowhere. And I looked up and I didn't see anyone come out that room. And I just, apparently, I mean, I remember saying to my mum anyway about sandals. I never told her it was Jesus though. I said to her about a man in sandals. And apparently my mum said later on, when I asked her the question, she said, yeah, you came to me and you said to me about a man being in sandals, but you never said it was Jesus. And I know why, because, you know, I was brought up, you know, around my grandmother, and, you know, she was diagnosed with schizophrenia and, you know, like mental health. And so therefore I didn't want to bring that up, you know, and say that, because I knew that no one believed my grandma with the stories she said. And I knew that my grandma was telling the truth about what she said, because I was with my grandma when she was experiencing certain things, and I know it was real. Maybe I felt it, you know, I just knew it was real, and I knew she wasn't lying, but I knew how she got spoken about also. And so therefore, you know, I didn't bring it up until the age of 21. And, you know, that was the Holy Spirit that kept my mouth quiet until that time. And I just, yeah, didn't bring it up. And that is the story. And yeah, it was something, you know, that happened back then, that it was clairvoyant experience. You know, I've had people, you know, say to me that what color was, you know, Jesus's feet, for example. Yeah. So, you know, to me, as a child, I only viewed Jesus being white. So in the statues, he was white. So had I seen Jesus, for example, being black, I wouldn't have been like, that was Jesus, because I didn't know Jesus to be black. I knew Jesus to be white. Do you see what I mean? So he's only going to turn up to a child in the way that they perceive him. So if you perceive someone to be a certain way, like, that's how God's going to, you know, reveal them in that certain way, basically. So it was for me not to get scared in that way. It was for me to know who he was. I was supposed to recognize him, you know, during that clairvoyance experience. And as I said, had it been any other color, I wouldn't have known it was Jesus. But at that time, obviously with the statues and everything, I only know him as being white. So yeah. So I just wanted to make that, you know, clear, that basically it's how the mindset is. And obviously I was a child, and so, you know, it's going to come to the way that I knew him to be. He's going to come to me in a way I knew him to be, basically. So yeah, so that's my story about, you know, my first clairvoyant experience. And I'm glad that I didn't just, you know, pick them out, these stories, because as I'm reliving it, you know, it's sort of like, you know, it brings back memories. And, you know, you get nervous when you tell the story because you're actually reliving it. And, you know, maybe it's better just to pre-know what you're sort of going to be saying, or what story you're going to be saying, instead of just picking it out, because it's just so overwhelming, you know, that feeling, you know. But yeah, so that is another story that molded me to be who I am today, and why I'm so, you know, attached to the Bible, or decoding it, or, you know, so on my spiritual walk the way I am with, you know, God, and, you know, and why I do what I do. So yeah, thank you for listening and sending everyone so much love. And I hope you enjoyed my story, which is a true and real story. Okay, take care. Bye.